What You Readin', presented by Quail Ridge Books, Raleigh, North Carolina's trusted community bookstore. This time on What You Readin', we're talking about a collection of essays on fishing edited by David Joy and Eric Rickstad and published by Hub City Press called Gather at the River. It features some amazing authors, including heavy hitters like Ron Rash, Jill McCorkle, and CJ Box. Gather at the River has stories about shark fishing, frog gigging, the pond at Grandpa's house, fly fishing, and more. With stories written by such talented authors, I liken reading this book to sitting around the tackle shop listening to all of the fishing stories, except everyone who comes in has the most eloquent way with words imaginable. David Joy, in addition to being an extremely talented writer, is from my home state of North Carolina, and I always love highlighting North Carolina authors. And David is joined in this anthology by fellow North Carolina authors Taylor Brown, Ron Rash, Jill McCorkle, Mark Powell, and Leanne Hinion. From swamps to oceans, mountain streams to backyard ponds, and everything in between gets a spotlight in this collection. Since it's a collection of essays, it's easy to read a little bit and then put down, and it also makes for a quick and easy read. Some of the stories are beautifully emotional, some are funny, all of them are relatable. This has been one of my favorites to talk about and recommend since it came out in 2019. And if you want to check it out for yourself, go to quailridgebooks.com/faithandfishing. And you can order it there, and on the side of your screen or on the bottom if you're on your phone, you'll be able to see the books featured previously on What You're Reading, other books that I recommend, and a list of Bibles that I recommend and that are some of my favorites. I may even add a list of fishing and or faith-related kids books. Let me know if you like that idea. But please, if you want to check this book out, use this link instead of going to Amazon. As someone who works in an independent bookstore, Amazon is always threatening the life of our stores. So please choose us over them if shipping is your worry. Right now, Quail Ridge Books is an indie bookstore that is offering free shipping on all book orders. So there's no need to be worried about that. So check it out. As always, the link is in the All Things Faith and Fishing link in the show notes. Scroll down to Quail Ridge Books. Or just go to quailridgebooks.com/faithandfishing. All right, let's take a short break and then get Jen Mues introduced. Whether you're a Ned Rig vet or a finesse fishing noob like me, Jade's Jigs is your source for high-quality finesse jigs that raise the bar by being lead-free. Using a tin bismuth alloy not only makes Jade's Jigs eco-friendly, it also makes the jig lighter so you get the same profile with less weight for the fish to feel. Check out jadesjigs.com. That's JADESJIGS.com to see their full lineup of jigs, styles, and colors. And since you're a Faith and Fishing listener, you can save 10% on your order by using promo code FNF10 at checkout. If you've listened to the first episodes of the podcast or listened to me talk about this podcast on other podcasts, you know that I was listening to the Bass Fishing Dads podcast when my wheels first started turning on the idea that would eventually become Faith and Fishing podcast. When I first started joining into communities here and there in the fishing world, such as Angler, I started seeing the same name over and over, and I recognized her name because of Bass Fishing Dads. I saw her posting Bible verses and eventually said, it's time, I need to invite her on. And so Jen Mues is going to be joining us. She has been working with and hosting on Bass Fishing Dads for a while now, and she has a lot of awesome stories to tell. So let's get her on the show. Jen, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to meet you, Cam, finally.
Absolutely. So to get us started off, kind of introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us who Jen Mues is.
Okay, well, I'm Jen Mues. A lot of people know me and my family, or my family and I, as Team Mues. I am a professional kayak angler out of Nebraska. I call myself a professional because I get paid. Because I have fished now in some of the biggest tournaments. Now I just need to win. But I've actually gotten to fish the several years with the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship. I made it there again for 2022, so I'll get to fish that again this year. And in 2021, I fished the first ever Bass Master Kayak fishing event down in Texas. So I just got a motor this year, so I hope to fish a lot of these events and hopefully finally I can place in something and actually, you know, run around with that title.
Absolutely.
I would love that for sure. I'm a bass angler. I typically target largemouth bass, but man, I'm a sucker for crappie fishing and oh geez. I mean, if I'm fishing, I'm happy. If I lived closer to salt, I'd fish with salt.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I totally would. I hopefully once my kids get bigger, I hop in a motorhome and sell my place here in Nebraska and just fish it off. The rest, I own my own business, as a social media marketer. I also have a podcast like you. So hopefully one day, you know, hopefully I can make it in the big leagues with the big dogs and be one of the world's, you know, best kayak anglers.
Awesome. So let's talk about that podcast for a second. So that's where
Sure.
I know you from, but kind of introduce your podcast to the listeners.
So right now we're kind of under some construction right now because we are making some changes this year. 2022 is going to be a lot of change. Gina is no longer with the podcast, and so Rich is also now a police officer, and he works a lot. So it kind of has, put a lot of pressure to get those episodes out. But we are the Bass Fishing Dads. We try to air, now it's just 2 times a month. But we've had some fantastic guests, Bill Dance, Hank Parker. We just actually had Hank not too long ago. Some of the Bassmaster Elites. And we had regular guests. I mean, that's how I got the job. I was asked to go, you know, on the podcast as a guest, just like I am doing today with yours. And somehow I started doing their marketing and, you know, we made a good go. We had, I think, about 300,000 downloads. And I hope to turn that into something bigger if I can find the time. But you know, it's like you and I, we both have kids and I want to fish and I work and, even just an hour out of your evening and it takes it consumes a lot of your time because then, you know, we have to edit these things. Rich does all of our editing. I mean, it gets crazy, but, we've actually gone to, iCast and met one another and because they're out of Florida. So that was epic. That was absolutely epic. It went from me being on the podcast to me, then hosting the podcast. I don't know how it got so crazy like that, but it did. Tons of fun though. I love both those guys. Hopefully we make it into something. I know Rich wants to do a little bit more with it and we got a few things to update. I mean, it's a tough, you gotta put the work into it. But we sure love to do the podcast and we had some freaking awesome guests and those episodes will be out there for everybody to enjoy from tips to funnies. I mean, we are funny. We get together and we are funny, together. I don't know why. It's kind of a cool dynamic, but, those episodes are still out there for everybody to enjoy. You just have to ask. I don't know. Google can play you the latest episode of the Bass Fishing Dads, and we've had some really cool guests on there. So,
absolutely, yeah. And my listeners are familiar with y'all because I credit the Bass Fishing Dads as the podcast that I was listening to whenever I kind of got this idea, and then again whenever I was guilted into it. So,
I love that. It gives me goosebumps. I love it.
It was actually I can't remember where along the lines you ended up as a host. So
I did. Remember, I don't know how that happened. It just got crazy.
I don't remember which guests you were a host for and which ones you were not. But
right.
So Chad Hoover was on, and he briefly mentioned his faith, like that he wanted, and then in the upcoming year, his plan was to really work on his faith and to live for God more. And I thought, that would be a cool podcast to bring fishermen on and talk about their faith. And then it was another influencer that you had on, or fisherman. And maybe you can remember, I'm not entirely certain who it was, but they said if there was content out there that you wanted to see or hear or experience and you can't find it, it's on you to make it.
That's right.
And that was whenever I got guilted into doing this.
Maybe I was thinking maybe it was Cody Prather, but it might not have been. We've had some really faithful people come on the show. Cody was one of them. He would
Absolutely.
be an excellent guest for you to have on your show if you haven't had him already.
I have. I love Cody. He's
superb,
awesome.
Man. I love that guy. Like, he just wants you to be more faithful. Like, you can be around him and you just feel more faithful with Cody around. Cody's a good dude.
Absolutely. I feel like every time I'm listening to the Bass Fishing Dads, I'm writing down like potential guest, this guy.
Right? You're like, if they can do it, absolutely. I mean, this is where we're at now. I can't give it up. I absolutely do love it. I don't want to keep it faithful. I want to keep it fishing and family, just because that's where it all started even for you, even for me. I mean, I did this with my family, which is what got it into me. This is how I got into it as a little girl. Because I had an uncle, my mom's brother-in-laws took me fishing. We went out to the lake. We lived out at the lake all summer long. I mean, it's a wonder I don't have skin cancer all over and failing skin. I lived out there. We did not use sunblock. We were on the water 24/7, and we played, we skied, we fished. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
It was the life. I think back at how it was when we were kids or when I was a child, and just had it made. I had a lot less worries. I didn't think about any of this crazy stuff that's going on in the world. We were still going to Sunday school, and it was still great. You didn't have to worry about much.
For sure. So what was it that took you from that level of fishing to deciding that you were going to travel around, going after tournaments, fishing tournaments, thinking that you were wanting to turn this into a career?
So I've told the story a time or two. So I'm going to leave it just right where it's at. We had it was Father's Day. My husband and I have been together since I was, it was the summer of my 9th grade. So I was like 15 years old when I met my husband.
That's awesome.
He fished as well. His family were farmers. He lived about 30 minutes away from me. His family were farmers, so when they would farm, he was kind of younger than the brothers. So instead of, doing all the farming, he went while they were working and fished in the creek behind their property. So he was fishing for, catfish and all those kinds of fish, while I was out at the lake fishing for crappie and white bass and walleye and whatever, my uncles would, rig us up for. And we just took off. I mean, that turned into traveling around little parks and me going by myself, ride my bike all the way down. I mean, I was a pretty gutsy kid. I think about it. I would never let my kids go down that far. But my mom, she was pretty trusting, knew I must have gotten hungry and would be back. I mean, that's the good old days when the street lights were your cue to get home. And
yeah.
But I did. Eventually, I would run into. It was one Father's Day, and I ended up getting my husband. There was a new store in town where my sister lived, and they had this buy one get one. And so, of course, you can't buy. I mean, it was Father's Day, but we had a paddle boat before that, and we always shared, but we got too big. So I was like, what do I get? What do I get him for Father's Day? And I ended up coming home with 2 kayaks strapped to the top of my car because that's all I had at the time. I would go on to, it just upped our game. Like, not only were we separate, but we were catching monster fish. Okay. Like, even in these really plasticky toy-like boats, we realize this is really what we came here for. I don't know what happened there. I started to kind of, well, every time we'd go out to the lake, we were the only kayakers out there. There wasn't really many kayakers back then. And a gentleman would come up to us while we were out there in a kayak and introduce himself as Kayak Jack. He was a local and, kind of the area, not really the immediate area, but the surrounding area. And he was a super faithful guy. He actually had started talking, he had ran his own guide service, but did start talking to us. He's like, do you know that there's these tournaments out there? And I run this tournament called Kayakapalooza. And I mean, that was just it. It was crazy from that day forward. I really didn't even have a smartphone. I didn't have any of the tools, and my husband would buy me a smartphone, that following Mother's Day, and I would just go all in and learn how to. Eventually I got my husband a smartphone after he got me one, and we just started looking, and it was like this whole new world existed behind the scenes. Like it was crazy. There was tournaments, there were things that you could win, there was money involved. Would it cost you? Yeah, like this was a lifestyle change for us. Like it wasn't just something that we would start off playing around, but I would start to grow my platforms, and I would start to, network, and I would start to meet people, and I would start to take the skills that I had, and I had done some, photography. I had also, done some graphics work within that photography. So one day, I don't know what really possessed me. I'd actually gotten some hooks from a gentleman. They were really peculiar. Like they had a certain bend to them, and they were fantastic. And I just told myself one day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to work for that company. Like I want to work, but I realized they were expensive. And I was like, all this stuff was so expensive. Like I was a stay-at-home mom. Where was I going to come up with all of this money? So I just kind of, I worked a few part-time jobs while the kids, were little, because I wanted to, raise them, and I wanted to be their mother. But I volunteered. I didn't, I took them to the local library, and I would keep my skills really sharp by, helping them out. And that kind of led me to wanting to, realizing that I had a skill set, not only with graphics, but with marketing. And I started to grow our platforms and started to reach out to sponsors and started to fish with different products. And I learned, I got rods and reels and tested product, and, I worked for paddles and worked for life vests. I mean, you have no idea. I worked my butt off, and I just kept telling myself, never to stop, keep trying and keep trying. And we would go on to get some sponsors, and they would help pay for some of our tournaments and some of the fees that we would, incur while we were out on these. We'd go to Texas, and oh my gosh, Alabama was so beautiful. Oh my goodness, Camp Alabama was beautiful. They had lily pads this bigger than beach balls. Like it was amazing there.
That's
amazing.
Awesome.
Fields, like so many. If you did not have electronics, you would have been lost, completely lost. I lost the biggest fish of my life on that tournament day. The biggest fish of my life. I saw it come out of the water right by my boat. I lost it on a crawl. I was fishing a weightless crawl because it was early in the morning. There was fog. It was amazing. Like if I could go back and just redo that a couple more times, that was great. It rained on us, and it was beautiful. I cannot tell you. That was in October. Then we'd go down to the Bassmaster. I didn't do that well. My husband ended up flipping over. He almost lost his life in a river. It was incredibly crazy. But I was still one of the first ever to fish at the first ever kayak Bassmaster tournament ever. So I'll take that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, everybody wants to get across that stage. I don't care who you are. We got to walk across the stage.
Absolutely.
We were down there on the stage. We were screaming. It was incredible. And of course, we've been to enough iCast and other things, and we've had people on the podcast, so they recognize me. They know who we are. So I was more excited to see everybody and be like, iCast and all those goodies and going to the classic, that's going to be your next goal, is to get to go to some of those events and meet some of these people you have on your podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was going to, so this weekend actually is the fishing expo here in Raleigh.
I heard, my friend's going. I heard about it.
And I was planning on it, and the COVID numbers right now in Raleigh are ridiculous.
Oh, it's bad everywhere. My whole entire Facebook feed, everybody has COVID. I'm not even exaggerating. That's really a fact. It is insane. The world is on fire with COVID. I mean, wash your hands, folks. There's no way out of this. At this point, everybody has freaking COVID.
Yeah, so I decided that the responsible thing was, until Henry is able to have a vaccine available to him, to avoid those kinds of crowds. And no offense to my listeners, but specifically that demographic, I knew, these people aren't going to be wearing masks. These people aren't going to be vaccinated. These people, there's going to be a big chunk of them that doesn't believe COVID exists.
Right. That's right. And I try really hard. I'm with you. I'm not, I wasn't a big flu shot person either. So I'm sure that there's people that are going to disagree with my theory, but I also don't work out in the public, right? I work at home. My kids are in the public enough. So if I'm, we've already gone through COVID in our home. I'm really hoping that, I do believe in it. My mom has to have, some sort of protection, because she would not do well if she got COVID. So it's kind of a two-way street. I don't, if you want that shot, that is totally up to you. If you don't, I think that that's your choice as well.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on. I hope the good Lord's going to protect me, and I have to go with that, because that's what I believe. So,
yeah, and I just decided that there will be other fishing expos. There will never be another Henry. So
yeah, that's right. That's absolutely true.
What I feel
100%.
is right to protect my family. So
that's right.
That was the reason I'm not going to be doing that. But yeah, I wanted to go back. You said you lost the biggest fish of your life, and
I did.
My father-in-law isn't always the most optimistic person in the world, but one thing he's told me I thought was very profound, and we've been fishing together once, and I caught we were fishing with live bait with shiners, and I caught a bass that was probably 7 or 8 pounds.
Yeah.
And I yelled out, "That's the biggest bass of my life," and he very calmly looked at me and said, "Well, we don't know that yet."
That's right. And you better hope this stinking heck that he's right.
That's right.
That's right.
So I want to encourage you. You did not lose the biggest bass of your life.
I know, right?
That we know of.
Man. Nothing ever feels good when you see that. I mean, I remember, and it was all about COVID. The school was trying to call me to tell me that school was canceled for COVID. And I was fishing, and I tried to answer the phone, and it was my husband asking me if they made the same phone call to him, because we're all on the same, when the school message comes, it's everybody gets the call. And so he's calling me to make sure, and I'm trying to hang up because I know what it is. And yeah, that's when I kind of jerked I had tossed it right on the edge of the lily pad, and I was just going to drag it off just a little bit. And sure enough, that fish was just there to smoke it. But I was busy trying to answer the stupid phone. Darn it.
Oh,
but you're right. Hopefully I catch awesome. Even, I've seen some monster fish. I mean, I am jonesing for some fish right now, because we're frozen right now. It's cold here in Nebraska, and it's not safe enough to go out on. So heck, I'm jonesing. We're going to go to the hot water treatments plant this weekend, though. That'll cut the edge.
That'll be awesome. So
there's some big honkers there. So
So I am. I'm going to be fishing some tournaments this year. This is going to be the first time I'm participating in-person tournaments.
Right.
I've fished in a couple online charity tournaments, but this will be the first time. I'm fishing for money, and
Ooh.
I'm going to be in person.
Do you know which tournaments you're fishing, or do you know what you're going to sign up? Are you doing any of the, what is it? That's called the Queen City or Kayak City? What are
So
what are those trails called?
there's Queen City. I'm going to be the it's the CCKF, I think it is, the
Yes, I
Central
heard that's
Kayak
coming up
or
too.
Central Carolina Kayak Fishing.
Yes.
They have more of the local stuff to me, so those are going to be the ones that I'm going out to fish a few of. But for someone like me who is fishing their first
Right.
tournament in person, that you've had many, what kind of tips do you have for a newbie like me?
Ooh, there's a lot. I mean, maybe. You know what? I feel like sometimes if you'll do your homework and kind of stick with what you know best and fish the areas that look most like what you're comfortable with, I think you'll do well. We would get caught up. I feel like because I fish more with my husband and we fish two different styles, we almost get, we almost fished, it almost gets like to be an issue because he wants to fish one way and I want to fish another way. So sometimes we have to split up and go just do our own thing. Because I'm kind of a backwaters girl. Like I want to go to the backwaters and I want to see what's out there. I also know that my strengths aren't necessarily in the deeper water. Like my strengths are going to come off, but it's getting better because I have electronics now, right? So I pay a lot more attention to my electronics, and I'd like to upgrade my electronics so I can see the contours a little better. But for a newbie like you, my goodness, get out there with a freaking search bait and you fish your butt off and you locate those fish. You never leave fish to go find fish. But I mean, if you go in with the search bait early in the morning, most of these tournaments start off in the morning and you can use believe it or not, even this time of year, a buzz bait works just fine. And if you're not catching them, sometimes fish faster. Believe it or not, those are some of the tips that, have caught me, more big fish. Sometimes I'll fish something incredibly different than anybody else, like a completely weightless fluke or a Texas rig, Cinco. I mean, as soon as I also take more than one rod. Let's say you miss let's say you miss your fish on the buzz bait. You miss it. It's there. Fish usually stay in about 3 foot, a 3 foot radius. Go, grab your finesse rod and throw your wacky rig right behind there. And that fish 9 times out of 10 will come back and get it. Also, I hate to tell you, but the fish don't leave and go other places. I feel like they're still there. And I think that you can get a fish to bite again in 30 to 45 minutes. I want you to chew on that little piece of goodie. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump into the faith side of things. You've mentioned it a little bit already, but kind of tell us your faith story. What is it that you believe, and how was it that you came to believe that?
Well, I was born a Christian woman. I attended Sunday school. I used to go to Wednesday night church. And when they quit that, I found another church to go with that was Christian as well. Where do I start? I've always been a faithful person, as are both my parents. I feel like I started to lean more on the good Lord as I was kind of a teenager. My mom was sick a lot, and I realized that she needed a lot more than, and prayer was kind of my Um, that was kind of the hope that I had, that she would always get better. She's doing good now and she feels good now, but um, I feel like I became more faithful as my mom struggled through, um, you know, depression and sadness. And I think that um, we all leaned on the good Lord more when she was just not well. And as I would get older, I think I just intertwined fishing, and I started to read some scripture about, the good Lord making us fishermen of men. And I finally just decided that I felt like, instead of searching, what my purpose was, I felt like I was living that lifestyle and trying to be closer with the good Lord and trying to, you know, um, live a lifestyle that, in the end, he'd be proud of. So um, I'm not sure why, or I feel like that faith has just always been a big part of who I am emotionally, spiritually, just um, maybe more so that, I needed the good Lord in my life to maintain, just a healthier lifestyle for myself, for my family.
Absolutely. And how is your faith translated to your time on the water?
You know what? I feel like that's when I'm closest to God, when I'm out there. I think his creation is so beautiful. You know, it's so peaceful. All the noise is drowned it out. And I feel like that's kind of why you and I are out there doing it. I do. I feel like there's no better place to see all that magic, especially when all the noise is removed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Almost is for me. I have to be out there. I have to. It's where I feel most at peace and where I feel like I'm, being my best self. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and I feel like in this industry and in this lifestyle that we live, I feel like you almost have to be obsessed. And why not? Especially where, you know, um, it just seems like the right place to practice when you're out there on the water. I mean, it is one of the most amazing places for me personally, to be, even, especially, gosh, I can't even reiterate that, for my mental health. And I feel like I'm a pretty straight shooter, but I really need to be out there. I do enjoy it. Even this cold is kind of, man, let's go fishing. I'm ready. I'm ready to get
Absolutely.
it back out there. And you see some of the most beautiful things. Like, Cam, we have seen some amazing sunsets. We've seen amazing things, and that just can't happen. Um, I feel like God's responsible for all of that. I don't know. I mean, I just, it's one of the, it's one of the perks, I think, of being a fisherman. Um,
Absolutely.
and that's the best part. It has to be. It is for me.
Yeah, I love being out there, and especially in a kayak,
Yes.
you get to be in a part of the habitat and a part of nature
All the things we love.
instead of
Absolutely.
blowing
And
by
I
it
love
in a
them just
bass
as much
boat.
as you do. Yes.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being in a bass boat,
No.
but being in a kayak, it's just
Well, nobody's watching. You're free to feel and believe and do, and I mean, as you please. You're right there. It's just you and God and the animals, and it's great. I mean, there's
absolutely,
no judging. There's no nothing. There's just, this is my happy place. And I feel like every one of us that has experienced what nature is and what it's like out there, every one of us are going to attest that this is God. This is how it looks. This is how it looks. This is how it works. And for me, I mean, I feel like I am. I feel like I'm my best right there. I feel like that is who I'm meant to be. And if I can, get my faith in while I'm out there, I mean, why the heck not? And I
Absolutely.
tell you, you don't have to think about it long. I mean, once you're out there, you realize it's magical out there, and there'll be days when your entire body is a hue, a different color, or you're surrounded in the elements of rain or even in fog, and it's magical. It really is.
Yeah, for sure. And then there are the times where you're just, completely humbled in the middle of a thunderstorm where it's just kind of like, um,
Oh, I've been
you know,
caught in a thunderstorm or two.
God just kind of shows his power and is like,
Oh yeah. Oh
and you
yes.
feel so
Yes.
small and so tiny.
I've been praying to God, Cam, and asking him to please let me see my children one last time. I've gotten myself in a few pickles. Um, those are the days. I mean, I need God always, but those are the days where I was crying his name. Please help me. Oh man.
Those days where you're
So
thinking, God, I don't know when it was that you put the idea of scupper holes into somebody's head, but thank you so much. Thank you so much.
that's right. Oh man, that was the time I'm talking about or referring to was it was a KBF deal, but it was a Kentucky Lake. Oh man. And that place gets gnarly when it gets windy, okay? Let's just say Jen had a set inside Jackson kayak and it was not a good idea.
Oh.
Um, we got caught up. I mean, Dustin saved my life. He did. He had actually one of our buddies was like, "Man, you can't go all the way to that kayak bass fishing national championship without a pedal drive kayak. I'll let you borrow ours." Okay, so we took our regular kayaks, but we took this giant native, and it wasn't no slim dig. It was a giant one. Okay, I think it was the Titan, but we borrowed it. And I am so thankful my husband had that because between that and what was it that he towed me with? It was a really skinny piece of like shoestring rope. But I lived and I was soaking wet and I was so upset and I was so scared. I just wanted to see my kids and I wanted to go home. But I shook it off and it's like horseback riding. You get your butt back in there and you get going or you'll get scared. So
For sure. Yeah, I've only been caught in a thunderstorm once, and I was.
well, let's knock on wood, Cam, because we get out there and it's hard to get back in time. I know it, right? That's right.
But it was the first time I'd fished an online tournament, and I was back in the creeks of one of the lakes here, and they had called for rain that day, and they had called for thunderstorms that night, and I had been caught in some pretty heavy rain earlier, and I had just gotten dried out.
Right.
And I was like, well, it's time to head back to the ramp. They're getting ready to close soon. So I started heading towards the lake, like the main lake, and a wall of water was coming towards me from the main lake.
Cam, no.
And I was like, oh,
that's
no.
not a funny laugh. That's a nervous laugh. That's scary.
So I had
That's
to
what happened to
lay
us.
down all of my rods and just kind of bite the bullet and just paddle. And it was it's one of the only times I've ever been in a thunderstorm where the lightning and the thunder happened at the same time. There was no
Oh my goodness.
There was no
I
pause
about
in
crapped
between
my
them.
pants when I heard that noise.
Yeah,
It took one time.
that was crazy. Well,
I pay attention to all those clouds now.
for sure.
I do.
So those are some of the memories that scare us. One of the questions I always ask all of my guests, what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Goodness, you know what? I have to go with we all went. I have to go with fishing with my dad, my husband, my brother. We all went down and. I think we went, it was at the Galveston. It was Galveston, Texas. We spent 2 weeks for a vacation down there and we took a fishing trip out into the Gulf of Mexico and caught red snapper. I have never seen my dad so happy. and my
That's
brother
awesome.
and all of us, and we all hooked up like on some major snapper. I mean, our crew was epic. I really wished I could remember the name. I know they're still down there. I wish I could go back and fish with them again. I've learned so much. That was a long time ago. I would love to try that again. But you know what? We all went together. I remember my dad and husband and brother, they were all sharing a beer. Everybody else got sick. I didn't get sick. I was thankful. All of us, none of us got sick. We were all, my stepmom was there. We all dropped down. I even caught a rare, red snapper. Um, I caught the biggest red snap. Like it was a trip of my lifetime. There were other people on it. And then we went and ate the tacos. We went and
Oh
some
man,
girl cut them up and we had fresh tacos right afterwards. And then we brought all that meat back home to Nebraska. Heck yes.
that
That
is
was a good
awesome.
time.
Oh yeah.
I would do that again in a heartbeat. I mean, if I was go back further and I was a little girl, oh man. You know, my uncles, they really did. They not only, they cut up everything I brought them. Like they were cool as heck. Like if I caught some bluegill, they're like, shortcake, we're eating these tonight. Let's go fillet these. And they'd cut them right up for me. Um, I'd go on to another cool little thing. A gentleman, his name is, Kenneth, and we would meet him fishing some of these kayak bass fishing, or Kayakapalooza actually. His name's Kenneth McVeigh. Anyway, this man literally would take my kids, let them catch their limit of crappie and invite us in and cook it all and we'd eat it at his camper. Like I love that. Like I'm game for whoever wants to share their knowledge. I'm not really good at the last time we tried to fillet fish, Drake and Dalen cried about it. So I've raised my kids fishing and so they were like their pets. So they weren't really hip about, having to kill them and then eat them. And they just were like, nah, no thanks.
I hear you.
I don't really eat much. I feel like I catch so many, like it's the last thing I want to put in my mouth. But Kenneth McVeigh makes the best bluefish fillet or bluegill fillets ever. Like he is the master chef of fish.
Awesome.
That's my
Yeah,
story. I'll stick to it.
I don't keep many, just because I don't like to clean fish. My wife doesn't like to eat fish, so it's not really all
Yeah,
that worth it. But
you're
they're,
never going to get any. Just
um,
go to the local.
yeah, yeah.
You're eating fish sticks, Kim.
But I do, I do
I
every now
like
and
it.
then.
Yeah, I like it. I just
Yeah, I
don't
do
want to.
too.
I feel like it. I don't know. You and I catch so many fish, or I mean, maybe you catch more than I do. You're in a better place than I am. But I feel like it's the last thing I want to stick in my mouth. I'm not really sure why. I feel like it all smells and tastes the same to me, but I'm
a
not
lot
from the.
of a lot of the places here I can't keep anything from, and they're not safe to eat. So,
Oh,
uh,
that's true. That's true.
yeah. But anyways, we are going to jump into the last segment, which is it's called "What's Your Favorite?" It's self-explanatory. I'm going to ask you your favorite in a few categories. We do this with all of our guests, and it's a lot of fun. So,
Okay.
to get it started off, what is your favorite scripture?
Ooh, goodness. You know what? As a small child, I had to learn um, Psalms 23 to get my Bible. And so I'm going to have to go with that because it was when I got my first, I actually got a reward for memorizing that long scripture. So that's good. I'm going to have to stick with because that's how I got my Bible.
Absolutely. And what about a
I mean,
particular?
I like that Fisherman of Men's. John 3:16 is good. I've kind of, I don't know. I feel like that's the way. I feel like that's where I need to put my effort. Seems like this sure, swift way to, you know, practice out there with nature and the good Lord.
For sure. What about a particular story from the Bible? Is there one of those that's your favorite?
Hmm. Hmm. Man, there's so many. Hmm. I might have to come back to that.
Okay. Absolutely. You just stop me whenever you think of one.
So many to
Um,
choose from.
so let's go to the next one. What's your favorite fish to catch?
Ooh, that's a good one. Mm, gosh, I always want to say largemouth, but my goodness, the smallmouth bite like crazy. I mean, I don't know if you have a good smallmouth fishery around you, but holy heck,
I
they just
haven't
fight. Like a small, like let's say like a 2 pound smallmouth, they fight like a 5 pound bass easily.
for sure. That's what I
I mean,
keep
I'm
hearing.
open to fishing other species too. Like I want some redfish. I mean, let me get over there to North Carolina and fish some redfish.
For sure.
Heck yeah. I mean, I'm a bass fisherman at heart.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably
So,
my fave.
all right. So, what's your favorite to fish for then?
Ooh. I don't know if I was talking about right now, we should be fishing for crappie right now. And it's just there's no safe ice. I like to jig for crappie. That's a good time too. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. If the fish aren't biting, I mean, I'm not a real big cat fisherman. I feel like the waiting game is kind of lame for me. I need to be moving around. But I do it. We do a catfish tournament in the month of. We were doing it in Catfish Month, and oh my goodness, like you catch huge ones with live bluegill. Okay, they're huge,
Absolutely.
huge. Hmm.
The fun thing about catfish to me is that they're negatively buoyant. So like
Right?
a lot of fish whenever they die, they float. So whenever they're
Sure.
not swimming, they don't feel like anything on your line. You can pull them right up. When a
Right.
catfish stops swimming, it sinks. So whenever
Oh,
so they have that extra weight to them to
oh
make them
yeah.
feel like their fight is even stronger because you're actually fighting gravity along with the fish. So that's one of the fun things about catfish.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what's your favorite fish to eat?
Ooh, gosh, man. I don't think I've ever had any fish that tasted better than that red snapper. Not yet.
I
We had
heard
some
that.
swordfish. We had some swordfish. I thought that was okay. Like its texture was more uh thicker, like flakier. I don't know how to explain it. More like a steak, chickeny. I don't know. That's
Right.
kind of weird. But flaky. I don't know. That old Kenneth McVeigh that I told you about, he would tell you that a freshwater drum cooked right and dipped in butter is freshwater lobster. That's what he would tell me.
Okay.
So maybe you have to try that. But you got to find a place where you can catch some dim drum,
Right. Right.
not saltwater drum, but freshwater.
All right. So what's your favorite fish and snack?
A snack. Oh man, I take snacks all the time. The bad thing is I eat them before I get. I can't wait. I eat it before I get there. Favorite fishing snack. We're big on beef jerky. We take beef jerky. We take. What else do we take? Uh, Man, I was eating a bunch of sunflower seeds and that wasn't good for me, so I need to stop eating those. I'm totally a fisherman, but just like you. I mean, if I'm not taking, I've been trying to take better snacks, like some that are a little bit better for you. So sometimes we'll do like granola bars. We take a whole cooler, especially when we're out there for hours. So we make sandwiches. Heck yeah.
That's
We just
awesome.
take the whole cooler. Yeah. Have you tried any of those ready meals? My buddy likes that, but I think it's like loaded full of salt.
I
So
have
I
not.
don't,
I'm
I want to take that because I want something hot. I don't always want sandwiches.
I'm horrible about stopping to eat whenever I'm on the water. So, um,
Well, mostly, yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, the fishing's good. Nobody's eating, but if it's not, you better have snacks. So
for sure. So I won't ask
we're
for.
going to come that way. I eventually will be your direction And when we do, we'll have to meet up with you and your wife or get some of us fishermen back together so we can go fishing again. I really hope one day we settle down close to North Carolina is always where I wanted to go. I couldn't believe that when you said it was North Carolina. I love that area. I had a friend that was from the area, and he would fish some tournaments, and he would show me, he's now a carp fisherman, but he would show me all these places, and I would look at all these maps and see all the beautiful areas there. And I was just like, oh man. And then my other buddy lives there. Our friends live there. I'm like, we got to go that direction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We got to wait for our kids to graduate and all the good stuff. But one day we'll come up there and fish with you, Cam.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm just east of right smack dab in the middle of North Carolina. So,
dude, that's the best bait. That's where I want to be. That way you get some snow. Because wait, I don't understand. You don't really sound like you're from the area. So you kind of were you born and raised there?
I was born and raised in North Carolina. So I lived just south of Charlotte for a while, and then moved to the eastern part of the state in high school, and most of my life I lived there. So down about.
You don't really have that really strong North Carolina drawl, so I was curious.
Well,
all my other friends, they sound like they do. They have a really big accent. So I thought you were teasing me when you said you were from North Carolina.
No, I can let it loose. My dad is from the mountains
of
North Carolina.
It sounds like it just works that way. Yeah. I've heard some funny words and some funny pronunciations, and I've giggled so hard laughing about these words. But it's definitely you guys, and the food's better. No lie. I'm coming. I don't know. We have a lot of corn and good beef here, but there's some good food in the South.
Yeah, I was just on the Bass and Brews podcast.
Oh, nice.
I don't remember if it was last week or week before, but I think it was last week. But I was up there with Paul Roberts, and he's got one of those thick Carolina accents. He was raised down in South Carolina.
I can't help it. It's so funny for me.
My accent showed in that one. It
good.
came
I'm
out.
gonna go listen to that just so I can hear it.
For sure. But yeah, so I won't ask for secret spots, GPS coordinates, or anything like that. But what's your body of water? What's your favorite body of water to fish?
I ain't giving it to you. You're out. You're just fresh out of luck, Kim. No. You know what? Gosh, dang. Locally, we fish a lot of spots, but our spots are dried up right now. It's the lowest I've ever seen it. Sadly, I don't believe we'll be able to fish the spring here. I mean, unless some major flooding takes place, we are out of luck for our local area. So our best bet is to, so it's about 8 miles to my local lake. And then, another one, what's that? Probably another 15 miles to my home lake. So where I would have grown up, where my uncles were at, but it's equally low. Like we are in a drought here in Nebraska. California is really pretty bad too. I just know that because I work for, Wild West Bass Trail, and their lakes are just, there's nothing left.
Wow.
So hopefully we can get some moisture and get these honey holes, because I'm telling you, it just doesn't look good. I mean, we thought maybe we would go and fish. But the good news is, I mean, there is water elsewhere. I mean, but you're going to have to travel,
Right.
And we're going to have to, make sure that we get on the ball here and try to get our tournament season kind of all etched out, because it actually starts for us. KBF saying they start right now, but for us, we're frozen. So we don't even have ice out. It's not even till March. So I have some time. I could fish some ice tournaments. I could do some stuff like that, but that's not really going to gain me, where I'm headed. So I might check out some different trails, go south. Maybe Kansas has some good stuff. I don't know. And we may make more vacation-y type stuff, or, I would love to stay in North Carolina for a few days, hang out with all the people there. We have tons of friends there. And I guess, Barry's, he's in West Virginia, I think, or Virginia or South Carolina. Crap. All that stuff's so close together. I mean, you could see everybody. Timmy Dixon's down there. Heck yeah.
Absolutely. So
that'd be the way.
What about your favorite lure to throw?
Ooh, yeah, I've been checking that. I feel like the jackhammer is doing it for me. So
I
I
heard
know it's
that.
$17, but it fishes the regular chatterbait does not get me near as many bites. I'm sorry.
I I I
It's
agree.
gotta be the jackhammer.
I wasn't a believer until I tried it.
I know. And for all you cat fishermen out there, they freaking love it.
Yes, they do.
They love it. And I don't know why I can be fishing. Any fish loves it. I can be fishing and you better believe I can catch crappie, bluegill, bass, wiper, pike, all in the same lure. So just don't even change your lure. Just use it. This is brought to you by Jackhammer. I like that. I'm a big spinnerbait girl. I love a buzzbait. I'm a buzzbait girl too. But
Awesome.
I'm a finesse fisherman. I really am. I don't mind throwing, I'll throw flukes, Senkos, Texas rigs, frogs. Oh, I love a frog bite. Holy cow. I've been invited to go to California during their frog bite. I may just go and do that. Go down there on the California Delta. Boom. Heck yeah.
Okay, so
Oh,
your
I love
answer
it
to
just as
your
much as you
favorite
do. I'm crazy.
so your answer to your favorite lure to throw is yes. Um,
Yes, that's right.
awesome. And what about your favorite time of year to fish?
Ooh, golly. That's not fair. I mean, I can't decide if it's spring or fall. I mean, I really love a good fall bite, but the bugs are atrocious. Oh, geez. Probably fall. That's when the big old hogs come out to play. I don't freeze. I can throw everything at the kitchen sink and they're still going to bite. Heck yeah. Let's say fall.
Awesome. Well, we are going to start wrapping things up.
Sounds good.
What do you have coming up for you?
Lots. So we'll do the KBF monthly. We've already qualified for 2022. So we might try some different things. I don't know if we're going to go to Colorado and see about that because remember, I'm over here in the southwest corner of Nebraska, so I can be in Kansas or Colorado. Now it's going to cost me more, but I don't know. You get to meet some more people. Or I may fish with Nebraska. It's just that the Nebraska trails are farther east. It take me about 4 hours to drive there. So I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Still
Awesome.
may try to qualify for a Bassmaster event. So I know we'll for sure go to ICAST again. And I know Bonafide is trying to put together our tournament for all of the regional team leaders, and I'm a regional team leader for Bonafide and Yak Attack. So we've got some tournaments coming up, and hopefully I can, at least place up there. And my goal is to do better than I did last year. That's it. And typically I just want to beat Dustin. Dustin's a dang good angler, and he's hard to beat. So.
Awesome.
And even when I beat him, you will know because I'll be jumping up and down and hooting and hollering, and he will not be.
Awesome. So I'm going to give you an open floor for sponsors, supporters, thank yous, shout outs, all that good stuff.
We are sponsored by Bonafide and Yak Attack. We're also sponsored by Wicked Weights. We have Filthy Anglers. Jim is a badass. Then we have Line Cutters, I think. And it's too bad you're not going. Too bad you're not going because I think they're actually going to be Line Cutters going to be at your North Carolina show or whatever you called it.
They are.
I heard they were going. So, I mean, maybe they'll do a ton of lives and you can hop on there for sure because I heard they were going to be there. And then we're Angler. We're part of Angler, and that's the GPS tracking for all your tournaments.
I love Angler.
We're called Angler Professionals. That's the button where you push it, the one that goes on your hat.
Yeah, I love Angler.
Yeah.
Because I used to journal everything, and now I don't have to handwrite it or hand draw the lake and all that good stuff.
Temperature, barometric pressure, it's all in there. Heck yeah. You can add all your stuff. We love that. Let me see. Who else is our sponsor? We've done a lot of work with Rock and Rail Custom Lures. He's kind of he does all of our custom lure making. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting somebody. I'm sure I am. I always do. But of course, we'll try to. I'm not sure when we'll get Bass Fishing Dads up and going. Probably later this month. I've got a lot of work to do. I've got to make some changes, but it might be interesting to see who we add on there or how we go about it. I think it'll be fun. I'll keep it the same way. We'll still have the cool guests. I'm the one that got the guests anyway, right? So I will get some more cool guests, and hopefully I'm thankful and grateful that it got you, that somewhere along the lines you saw something that really got you to do what you're doing now. And look how many people are listening, and look how many people you're going to help. Even if you just, it's definitely not a coincidence. So good job for
sure.
doing so well.
For sure. Well, thank you.
You bet.
And what about social media, website, all of that good stuff? How do we find you?
Let's do.
See
I'm
your content?
Kayak for Life. Yeah, I'm Kayak for Life. Jen Mues. That's it's hard to find me. I've changed it. I have several. I have Kayak for Life Jen Mues on Instagram. I believe it's the same on TikTok. And then I have Jennifer Mues on Facebook. And I still have my Twitter account, and that's Yak for Life. So there's a lot. If you can find me under Jen Mues, JenMues, or Jennifer, JenniferMues, you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
it has been a blast.
Having me, Cam.
And
yeah, I do too.
Wish you all the best.
Hey, same to you. Thanks for having me.
Atollas, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, is an eyewear accessory and gear company focused on enhancing your time on the water. Their floating sunglass retainers are the most technically advanced around. Over 5 years of engineering, testing, and exhaustive feedback from paddlers, anglers, and watermen have resulted in a patented design in a class of its own. They're incredibly light and comfortable, built for durability, sport a sleek, minimal design, float virtually all brands and models of sunglasses, and they're backed for life. So if you break them, Atollas will replace them. No questions asked. Whether you're fishing, kayaking, or boating, Atollas will save your shades from the dream. Head on over to atollas.co to check out their gear and use promo code FAITHANDFISH15, that's faith the letter N, fish the number 1, 5, at checkout to save 15% on your order. Another big thank you to Jen for coming on the show. It was a blast, and I appreciate you opening up with us. If you want to follow Jen's adventures, there will be links in the show notes to her social media, as well as Bass Fishing Dad's links, Carolina Waters, Yak Attack, and a link labeled All Things Faith and Fishing. That will have all of our social media, where to listen to the podcast, our website, merch store, Summer DeSalvo Photography, and sponsor links, including the Quail Ridge Books What You're Reading link. And now it's going to have the discount codes for Atollas, Jade's Jigs, Mr. B Lure Company, and Save Your Outdoors listed on their links to make it even easier for you. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless. Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by me, Cam Steele, and is sponsored by Jade's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Save Your Outdoors, Atollas, and Mr. B Lure Company. Be sure to give us a rating and a review, and to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.